Hello, everybody, and welcome back to This is the Year, the Swiss-based artificial intelligence podcast. And once again, I'm joined today, before we get into the outline of the episode, by the AI magician and the AI wizard. Let me first introduce the first co-host today, AI magician. How is life? Today, we're talking about AI agents that are enabling students and soon-to-be graduates to be either building their own businesses or actually landing a job in AI. Bene, do you look forward to the episode?
Yeah, I do. We did struggle a bit on defining because we want to bring the best content for you guys, but hopefully it reaches out to you.
But I think the projects
deliver.
that we came up with are pretty interesting. At least if I had the free time and availability, I would do, I think, 95% of them. Maybe some of them I'll turn into a business, depending on how good they turn out to be.
That's good. So you already heard the AI wizard. Joao, thanks for for your best notions at the beginning. Once again, for the audience, in today's episode, we deconstruct 7 AI agent business ideas that you can start with no AI experience, be it as you're soon to be graduate at university or you are at university, or you maybe want to run them at the same time as maybe getting into an AI job in the future. So that's really the notions there. At the very end of the episode, we also will highlight a few of the risks associated to that. So something to look out for. Mostly Bene brought that up. So I will happily give you back the word, Bene, at the end of the episode. Before we get started, we shoot these episodes every single week. We try to enable professionals and entrepreneurs to start engineering in AI. So sometimes it's a little bit technical on this podcast, but we also try to usually highlight a business view and a no-code view at the same time. So feel free to comment below if you like the episode, give a like, or give some sort of suggestion that we can approve for future episodes. Gentlemen, let me start maybe with the first notion, give you the word, Joao, and then I can wrap it up also from my perspective. Kind of the first, let's say, AI agent business idea to start. Which one kind of came up into mind? I think you mentioned something around Notion, but maybe just a little bit from a technical perspective, why that does matter.
So having some sort of agent that can read your notes and can give you insights over those. So people write a lot of notes on either Notion, Microsoft OneNote, if you're a student, I remember using that a lot, or even Obsidian, whatever platform you're using to write your notes. Even I think Apple Notes has that functionality. They all have an export button. So you can export your notes entirely to Markdown, CSV, HTML, like some sort of file. And the idea for this initial project, either you're starting out in AI or you're trying to transition from your career into an AI-based one, is creating a project that can read that content, and then you can talk about it, ask it questions. This is something that's super common and popular within business, like usually trying to ask questions over your business documents, trying to see some KPIs from that business. And doing that on a personal level will give you a lot of insight on how these projects go. You can make it as simple as possible. It doesn't have to be super complicated at first, and you can add features onto it as you go.
So maybe just to add maybe a few of the notions, just for if you're completely new to AI, usually these large language models, like the models you hear in the news, like ChatGPT, Geminis of the world, they don't know much about the actual documents of a particular company because that's kept behind the walls or even locally to your desktop if you're a student. So you're basically exposing this kind of proprietary knowledge or this proprietary data to the AI. And this process is oftentimes referred to as retrieval. So you give it some sort of notion, in that case, actually the app notion or some other data points, and then the AI, so the actual intelligence, can interact with this data. That could be, for example, text. We had a long discussion this morning, actually in the group here, around tables. So you can also give particular table data points, like, for example, a financial table or some other sort of table, and the AI can also interact and get knowledge out of these tables. So it's really this interaction between documents, PDFs sometimes, or even if it's a PowerPoint that ran into a PDF, and you would want to give that to an AI for them to interact and ask questions and extract certain elements from these documents. This is usually done in nowadays world by humans. So us as business people, we maybe get an email, attach the PDF, and then we need to start reading and acquiring the knowledge from the PDF. And in Joao's example, from a project standpoint or even from a business idea standpoint, you have an AI doing most of the heavy lifting, and you can interact and ask questions. Some notion also that's great associated to that is a route where the information came from. So have like a reference That's maybe for all the business students out there and from all the law students. They usually have to refer and reference where in the document this was, page 17, line 42. So this kind of gives the highlight that the AI itself is not just coming up with some data.
Hallucination,
yeah, exactly. Anything, Benne, from your side?
No, I think
You want to add here?
It's very useful and it's very easy to assemble. And again, as João mentioned, it's going to already give you some business knowledge and some experience on how to deal with these kind of things.
You do Python or you do JavaScript? What do you need to do?
I think you use whatever you're most comfortable with. If you're starting out in coding in general, use Python. You'll have a lot more examples running on that. But JavaScript, it's also very popular, and you won't have problems building this kind of simple projects in whatever language you want. But
And
just to
even
have
building Java on any other language.
to give an idea to the audience how much of a finance bro Cyril is, we're talking about your personal notes, and his first example of a table is financial metrics. So I'm not sure how many people have financial metric tables on their personal notes, but I was thinking more along the lines of having your grocery list or having like a list of contacts that you have, something that you can actually have on your personal notes. But Cyril, being the finance bro that he is, maybe has a daily SP500 breakdown on a table somewhere.
Absolutely.
Or in his
I
personal
have
notes.
like all the AI companies I own stock, which is probably 80% of the ecosystem. I have like all the profit and loss data, the profit and loss tables, and I interact with AI just to kind of look into different ways on these companies. So that's not really on this actual use case, but thank you, João, for making the segue to my home field aside from AI. Investing in a lot of these firms. So yes, I do use AI just on a personal notion to extract table data, and usually they're not really that good at it most of the time. So you need to have some sort of, again, table augmented generation or maybe a better way of extracting table data. And that needs a little bit of tweaking and engineering there. So that's the first one. Just to wrap up, simple to get started, especially if you're at uni, but highlighting really this key skill of document processing / extracting knowledge from, for example, PDFs. Gentlemen, second point on the list, again, give you the word, João, and then we can follow it in a similar fashion. You mentioned email support, but maybe elaborate a little bit why that matters and how you could implement that.
Everybody loves receiving emails, so everybody loves the ping associated with having a new email. No one actually likes to write them, and having like the work that being off-sourced or in this case exported into a chatbot would be a lot easier. And thus, this is the second example. So build your own email support agent. And this can be as simple as you copy-paste your email that you want to reply to the chatbot. The chatbot should give you an answer. Now, this you could do over ChatGPT or over Gemini or on your Claude. This is something that not necessarily a project. The part that makes it a project is the chatbot, as a goal, should be able to match your writing style. So you should have a few short examples of emails you've written in the past, or your text that you've written on your own notes, or something that you know is your own personal style, so that the bot can basically replicate it and not sound as robotic. Because I think people are starting to be able to tell when something's written by ChatGPT. And also, it works a bit on the prompting side of things, that this bot should be able to have some information on you. So when you ask it to, hey, reply to this email, it should know like what's your name, what you usually do, and some sort of activities that you're usually involved in. So it knows and has some sort of profile on you. You can adapt that response to that. So it's a project that explores mostly the few shot prompting and just prompting engineering in general. And it'll give you a lot of insights for then when you go into business, doing kinds of business projects where they want a very specific chatbot. Either they want it for the legal department, where the chatbot has to be really concise or really verbose to speak all those legal terms, or you want something for user base or customer facing chatbots where they have to be more friendly, more casual, but still abide by some rules. And usually companies, especially when it's customer facing, have a really strict idea on how the chatbot should reply. So the writing style and being able to control the writing style of these LLMs, I think, is a really important feature and a really important skill to have on your tool set. So it's a really great project to get started.
Maybe I can put that on the screen here on the prompting. I think most people sometimes that have not really had much exposure to AI just generally believe the only prompt you can do is actually in the line of the chatbot. But that's just like the actual last point where you can influence an output. There is maybe, again, put it on the screen here, there is other way of how you can actually influence the way the AI should be thinking. On system prompt level, there is this like general instruction that you can give to the AI. And I think this project, as you mentioned, Joao, gives some sort of an idea which different types of prompting techniques you could be using, which one is working better, which one is working less. Maybe I can put it into the description as well. There were these like system prompts that were released from these no-code vibe coding tools, like the Lovables of the world, V0s of the world. And sometimes to me, it helps to look through these system prompts and just to check how much could I maybe recycle for our own project. So that maybe is more on the project of prompt engineering, different ways of mechanisms. And it's mostly trial and error. If you're completely segueing into different let's say, companies, contexts, and you have maybe different AI projects at the same time, you can consider setting up Prometheus. Again, put it on the screen here. Is a great tool to manage these different types of prompts across one product or across many different ones. So not that you have them on a OneNote lying around, so you can actually manage them like you would manage code. So that's maybe a side note also from a prompt perspective, a great tool.
And really depending on how complex and how technical you are, you can copy paste your examples from your email, from Gmail or Outlook, or you can try to integrate directly. So using their APIs to get your personal emails from there directly. So you can just say, reply to the latest email, and it will know what email you're talking about. So you can control how technical it gets, how difficult this project gets, depending on how much skill you already have, and also how much time you want to dedicate to it.
That's
Bene, go ahead.
That's the segue that I was going to add there. Basically, here it's a great idea to improve your prompting skills and to get what you want. But at the same time, here you can already start to get ahead in the game, or you can save up this part of the project for later on, because we guessed 6 months ago that MCP was going to be something that was very broad and people were going to use. Probably whenever you build this app and you're in college and later on and you plan to get to a company, probably MCP is going to be something that's more standardized. Maybe it's a good approach to take a look on this here, because I think Google and Outlook already MCP servers for this, so you can have some sort of integration and explore this aspect a bit, and for you to get a bit more deep in the rabbit hole, and you're going to get to know a bit more, and you see that there's a world to explore, and you're getting the hang of it with MCP.
Yeah, it's a great notion. Maybe just to wrap up again, first tool was a bit more on documents. This one is a bit more on the, let's say, prompting / MCP, model context protocol, like these servers. Again, maybe put a video that we really went into the details on MCP into the description as well, so for you to check out if you're interested. Then the next one was in regards to Reddit. Joao, I think you mentioned screen regarding some screen issues.
I think it might be one of the biggest problems. At first, at the first half of the 21st century is doom scrolling. So TikTok has this amazing idea of infinite content, and Reddit has an apparently infinite content stream also. But people spending like 3, 4, 5 hours on these platforms daily. And a really good project that you could do is pick your favorite platform that you spend the most time on. I'd say either Twitter, or call it X, or Reddit, because I think they're the most text-based ones. And for your feed, and this would mean like use their API to get your feed programmatically, create a chatbot that can summarize like 1 hour or 2 hours worth of scrolling for you in 5 minutes. And thus, the goal should be that you can just trigger it, it will read your feed for that moment, for that day, and create a little summary of what's trending, what's the drama between your friends, what's happening in the world, like that would appear on your feed, because a lot of people are getting the news from their feed too. And having all those insights and those key points on a little summary that you can read in 5 minutes. Then it's done and you saved yourself 1 to 2 hours of scrolling. So there might be projects already out there that might be able to do this. This is a really good project for you to do by yourself, because you should be able to research how to get your feed from these platforms and how to create summaries with LLMs. Because in business projects, creating summaries out of documents is, again, a very common feature that these projects need to have, because sometimes documents are really, really long and you need to summarize them for business leaders and business decision makers, or just in general, being able to have that capability of summarizing something long to reduce the context, I think makes it a really good project.
I think it's
To
yep.
to add on that, again, this is a great start of a project, and we can pile on more difficulty to try to integrate with different platforms, from maybe, for instance, for like Instagram, because it has pictures, it has images, and on project wise, you do have a lot of text-based information, but you also have visual information, and if you
Charts
can pile on
and graphs, and yeah.
exactly. So if you can pile on that to describe some of the pictures, you're going to get ahead of everyone else, because everyone is not doing that, and people who are doing that are struggling because it's not easy. And if you already struggle in the beginning, you know your pains, you know what's going to handle, and you're going to showcase to companies that, hey, I know how to handle this. Probably you don't have anyone or people who do are not that many.
So the V1 for the project would go over Twitter or Reddit,
Yeah.
or again, some other social media platform. And the V2 of this project is to use your TikTok feed or use your Instagram feed to actually read those images or videos. Because it is possible, like from a technical perspective, we know it's possible. I'd be able to do it, but I'm highly technical and I've been doing this for a while. For someone starting out, is a really good challenge to see if you can use this multimodality. So the capability of these LLMs to read videos, to read images, you have to be very specific on how you send them to them and how many you send at a time. But it's something you need to find out by yourself by doing this first project.
Because with this, just sorry to add on, the person handling this on the V2, it's not just handling the technical aspect. It's going to be, it's going to open his mind a bit more regarding the costs, the latency, the time, and everything. So it's going to add a really extra layer of complexity, more than someone who's starting out is aware, and it will create that awareness that you only gathered after some time in the field.
Maybe
Because-
just to highlight, yep. Go on.
Yeah,
Sean.
go ahead. On that pricing and cost side of things, for the text side, for $5 worth of tokens in your favorite platform, be it OpenAI, Google, like Anthropic, $5 worth of tokens will get you months worth of usage for text. But if you're using images, you can quickly explode through that. So you can still maintain it like a very budget, very affordable kind of project, but you have to be careful on how you handle it. Like you don't want to repeat images, you don't want to send extra long videos. Like those all are priced differently. And it's something that's really important for you to find out by doing this project. Like you can read about it, but when it's coming out of your pocket, I don't know, there's some extra aspect of learning that this gets added to it.
Maybe just on the cost perspective, I think the APIs are usually also not free. So for example, if you want to get access to the API from X, I think it's like, there's a free tier, I believe, but it's not really that sophisticated. I think then it's $200 a month, and it can range up to, I think, more than $40,000 per month if you're an enterprise and you would want to consume a lot of the content from X. So maybe just on the cost side of things, if you build AI, it's usually this multi-sided sword that you have to balance, the token cost of the AI plus the API cost that you might need to have as well, plus the cloud computation itself, maybe hosting and stuff like that, or security layers, if you really want to go into the more details. But this cost perspective, certainly at the beginning, I wouldn't consider setting up the enterprise API for X if it's just a student project. That costs you a lot of money.
Just a side note, whenever you sign up, and there's several programs for students, but if you sign up the first time for Gemini, for GCD account or Azure, you have some free credit, so you can spend those.
Yeah, I think Azure,
and,
they also have that.
I think X is particularly expensive because you need to have some sort of license, like you mentioned. But Reddit is, I think, a bit more affordable because you pay per 1,000 calls, and it's like less than $1 or a few dollars per 1,000 API calls. So you can still run it in kind of an affordable fashion. And again, if you really want to skimp out on that, you can just copy paste open X on your computer, try to screenshot everything. Then again, you have to learn how to read those images. So
and you maybe have
it's a
copyright
trade-off.
issues.
You might have some,
Maybe
but it's
if
your own
you-
personal feed, so it shouldn't be too bad.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. If you simplify via that workaround. Okay, then maybe just some fast shots on other ideas. I mean, we talked about a chatbot and a voice bot. This is usually, I can maybe take that on my end. The very simple go-to at the very beginning, build it maybe for a small business, and it is sometimes a little bit more custom. We initially talked about going over documents, so you might need these components as well. You might want to choose the correct large language model. Maybe you have a second one that's correcting certain elements, and you can really start these agentic workflows more and more. Again, put maybe the video here as well for you to check out. And we really dove a bit into deeper how to build certain systems like that. And then the second one is the voice bot. Of course, similar to the chatbot, you would just have a voice model associated to it. And you might add actually value to different small customers in your region, at your university, and so on and so forth. So this like chat and voice bot is something you can even start with no code. N8N, for example, gives this offer, but also in code itself. Something maybe just to reverse the trend on voice. So the voice bot is usually a human talking to an AI and they have an interaction, but you might also actually be building projects where there is just an AI listening into humans talking and making some sort of analysis from that. So for example, in psychologists, you might just have an AI listening in and noting down the elements. You might have an AI listening in your university and you're taking notes. Basically all these jobs that require listening and note taking and making some sort of analysis from there, you can basically be building with AI as well. I think, Benna, you brought up a great business idea last week on the notion of an AI is listening in a meeting and is interrupting everybody. So it's
What a
kind
great
of
business-wise idea. I'm sure businesses would love to be interrupted mid-meeting. Go ahead,
Maybe.
Benny.
Come
Pitch it to us.
Taking out the small sentence out completely out of context. Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead. Like, do I think it's your idea, and you mentioned it.
Okay. No,
I think
the
off
pitch
the podcast.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The pitch itself, it's similar to what I explained last week. Basically, normally we need to be challenged on certain areas. And for instance, if you go to the gym, you pay a personal trainer to kind of yell at you to make it push it through. You can kind of have this with with AI, and you don't pay as much as you pay a personal trainer. But at the same time, okay, right now, trainer is physically there. He can see what you see right now, and with the integrations that you have, it would be tricky. But you have two options. You can take the phone out and be taking a video at you. That would take a bit longer for him to yell at you. But if he just measures the integration with your heart rate, yeah, you can make it to make you push through more, to make you more persistent. Because let's be honest, when any of us who goes to the gym alone or goes with a friend, normally with someone else, you push through more. You feel of course, in some aspects, it's because of safety, because normally you need a spot.
So if you bench press, you maybe do 2 more reps and you don't
the
get hit
AI
by
is
the
like
bar.
2 more reps. You need 2 more reps, and you.
But then he doesn't spot you, so you kind of. That's not
But
the
it
same.
can have the functionality to call 911 for you. So like someone will
Host, you
eventually
get, like, strangled or
get
something.
your body off the machine. Just have that kind of like last minute safety.
Anyhow, you can add this agent to analyze the images from the videos that you record, so it has more or less a notion of your posture, and then it has reminders while you're doing the exercise. You're saying, "Oh, I'm doing this," and then he's like, "Don't forget to do this. You're not doing good." Something
So
like this, but
it's like an AI personal coach that you pitched today. And just for the audience, last week, Bene pitched this meeting interrupter. So there is two different.
it's not kind of the meeting interrupter is more in terms of, okay, in meetings we waste a lot of time because people go out of topic very often, and sometimes they go very out of topic, and this is more of a controller, like, hey, you're out of topic. The topic is this. Don't oversee your limit. And I think these people would be, they could be a bit pissed, but they would be less offended than someone else saying that.
Yeah, it's like a neutral
Yeah.
entity that's kind of giving some sort of boundary conditions. You should go back to your to your topic. Great, gentlemen. I think
Peter, we're
one
trying to
more.
decide
Yeah.
if we're buying a company or not. Not, we don't want to know about your weekend. I mean, I'm glad it was great. You had fun, but it's a really
One
it's $1
minute
million
in.
acquisition. So please do shut up. Having an AI
Please.
do that instead of you, or instead of a person that can be blamed and fired, I think it would be a pretty cool
Might
thing
be
to
a
have.
lot, especially if this is like the partner or something of the
True.
of the investment company. Okay, then the last idea for a project and business, I think, is in regards to budgeting. Again, Joao, what's the high level pitch here?
So everyone wants to budget. I don't think they love to do it, but everyone wants to because I think it's an important kind of aspect to being an adult is controlling your expenses, knowing how much you're taking in, how much you're spending every month, and there is, I think, upwards of a few thousand Excel templates on how to do it. But people don't usually do it, mostly because it's boring to sit down at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and try to write down everything you spent on that Excel. It just takes time and it's not as fun. So an idea would be for this chatbot, and again, you can have this voice component and have it a voice bot, but V1, let's keep it simple, a chatbot that will actively ask you stuff. So you sit down with it, it'll ask you questions like, hey, what did you spend? And what your bill for your water bill was, what your Wi-Fi was for this month. And it'll save all those costs directly into a table for you. So in this project, you'll be exploring structured outputs out of these models. It's something you can do. It's something that's really useful for business projects too. And so having the bot actively ask you questions, so it's a multi-turn conversation where it'll try to learn as much about your expenses for the week or for the month as possible and write them in the table for you so you can later analyze. You can copy paste that table into your Excel if you have one. You can then, if you have your own template for budgeting or using one from online, you can have the bot already write the table in a compatible format. So it's easy and really simple for you to copy paste those values into your Excel. You can have it some examples of your previous expenses for the last months, so it knows what items to ask. So it knows that you spend some money on gym. It'll ask you about a gym subscription. It'll ask all those questions that it knows about you. So it's a project that explores structured output, explores some kind of memory management. So it knows what previous expenses were, what kind of profile you have. And again, a bit of prompting. I think it's common in all across these kinds of projects. And if you want to have it extra fun, you can add a layer of voice so it can talk to you directly. I think
I like the fact that each example you guys give is around health and fitness today. So,
And
financial stability, yeah.
And financial stability.
Another add-on, V2, would be for you to, because banks do have APIs as well. So you integrating this budget writer with your bank.
I think getting the information directly from the bank might be like a V4 or V5.
It's like a
V19. Banks are
if
notoriously hard to talk to programmatically.
What depends?
You have sandboxes. I just did the research because right now you have this protocol, open banking. It started to be more widely adopted, and I don't think if you have experienced, there are some payments that you can log in straight in, into your bank from different platforms to do the payment or transfer. So right now, this API accessibility to banks is getting easier and easier, and you even see these budget apps that they can, normally you have to pay, but they can already integrate into your bank. So it's more or less automated.
Yeah,
and if you could do that with AI, you don't need to put your expenses and you can just say, hey, how are my expendings with this month or like that? And where can I save up? Or it can be way more personalized, maybe not V2, maybe V3, V4, but this is something you can have in your mind, because here you will have to deal with this kind of stuff, and doing a comparison to work, you will need to handle and take care of external entities and providers and do some integration with them. And this is a perfect scenario for you to test that and to get aware. Of course, here we're talking about two different levels, but we want to give you all
to make it as difficult as you want.
Yeah.
Depending on your technical skills. I mean, and if Revolut, if you're using Revolut, or most like digital banking apps have an export functionality, so you can export the data from that month, put it in the LLM, and have your chatbot, your first LLM project, be able to categorize each expense and put them in the correct department. So it basically builds up that Excel for you, or builds that table for you. Even Splitwise, if you have a roommate because you're still in university, so you have some kind of app to share your expenses. Splitwise also has that export functionality. I think most of those kinds of apps do. And it can try to see what your actual expense was. So not the overall house expense, but just your personal one. You don't want to account into your roommate Peter's pizza costs, but you want to see how much you spent on each thing and how, if it's improving or if it's decreasing every month. It'd be a really good project. I think I'd love to do it for myself even.
I mean, it still mesmerizes me. Most of the apps, I don't want to shout any names, but they're still fairly bad on individual expense intelligence, let me put it like that. I need some information on my spending trends. I need some information on improvements. It's mid-2025, and I still haven't seen a proper LLM integration in any of them. For many various reasons. Maybe the user doesn't want this feature, but it's certainly something you can maybe have a workaround for your own or for your friends, and maybe scale it across a small group of individuals and then maybe a larger community. Just maybe draw a line on. Yep.
I've heard that this is the years. It might be very possible that this functionality is coming. And for the people listening to the podcast that want to get into AI, you might be the ones building this functionality for these apps. So they'll want to have it eventually, specifically very soon. And so you could be the one part of the team to basically build up these chatbots inside Splitwise, inside Revolut, or inside your basic favorite app.
I agree. So if maybe you're eager to join these kind of companies, do this V3 or Frivor, and there's not many people who are doing it, and you're probably going to get a really cool project to
implement
apply.
there. Yeah, that's true. Maybe just to draw some intermediate conclusion before we go to you, Bene, for the risks. I think most of the project we just talked to, as a high-level summary, they're either doing document processing, it's a chatbot that requires prompting, we have a voice component, or we have different types of data formats, like a table that we need to get some intelligence out of it, and there's an interactive way. Of course, this is nothing that might take you years and years to develop. It's maybe a multi-month project, but from there you can expand to more agentic features. So you're equipping these AIs with tools via model context protocol servers. You can dock at different data points. And this is just like the core functionality at the beginning. And then you can automate a lot of that. You can add different features on top of it. But just as a foundational layer to cover all the requirements in AI, I think this array of potential AI business/student projects/job-seeking projects are a really good starting point. Bene, the risks, what you have on this? We are keen to hear your risks.
I think these are the kind of risks that are related to AI, but it's not AI itself. It's the human in the loop that needs to be paying attention. And I picked the three major points since we're pitching projects that you can start. I'm picking a point for students. We need to, as a student, you need to be aware of the information that you're relying on AI, because sometimes the training data it can be biased, so we can have unfair and discriminatory outcomes. So you need to have some critical thinking when you're using these kind of tools, because if you're not, it's going to make you sometimes not very good, and you're not going to be very critical. And as a developer as well, you really need your critical thinking to understand this kind of point. So the first point here, it's mainly for students, is the bias and the inaccuracy of information on the models itself.
And the models do seem very smart, but not that long ago, Google initially launched Gemini. And remember, these models are trained and reading from the internet. and also from Reddit, amongst many places. And so if people asked, hey, give me a cool recipe, some people, there's screenshots going around, were told to eat rocks and that you can like season them and eat them and be a lovely meal. Or if you want asking help for something like, oh, I'm really sad, how should I do? It will tell you to find your nearest bridge. So that's been mitigated for the most part, but it's still like a latent, let's say, feature or characteristic of these models that they're reading from online sources. And a lot of forums, they don't have to be very racist or very mean, but sometimes they're sarcastic, and sometimes that's enough for the model not to understand what's being said and repeat some very dumb stuff. And again, the models are getting smarter, but it is still within their sources to be a bit sarcastic, a bit human, and a bit flawed. So pay attention to that.
Yeah. So as a student, don't fully take for granted AI information, because although it's good, it's based on humans, so be aware. Another thing is the erosion of fundamental skills and over-reliance. This is a bit for us as a developers. By using these AI tools, sometimes we don't save the struggle to solve some things because it's super fast. I do recall on my early years of programming the amount of time I would invest on I like to use the word invest and not waste on Stack Overflow to try to solve something. And because of it, the more you repeat or the more time you spend on something, the deeper the learning is enrouted in you. It's deep. It creates roots. So even though you should use AI tools to speed up your performance as a developer, you should always do a bit by yourself as well. So you can ask for the AI to prepare the structure, but don't lose your critical thinking and your problem to solving abilities, because they are necessary. And if you don't pay attention to that in a couple of months, I would even say months, if you don't practice coding or if you don't do this kind of stuff, sometimes you're going to forget. Sometimes this happens to me, for instance, with writing. Sometimes writing, I'm so used to the autocorrect that sometimes I write the wrong word and then I go there to click and it autocorrects. And sometimes like, let's write that. Right. And then I need to sometimes even search for the word, because this is something that's already so deep in rooted. And for this kind of skills as a developer, you still need your problem solving, and that shouldn't be crippled by AI. AI should be giving you a car for you to be able to reach places, not break your leg so you can't walk.
What a lovely metaphor, Ben.
Good
And
metaphor.
it might sound a bit ironic, like this advice, because a while ago we were proposing projects that are basically automating parts of your life, your budgeting reports.
That's why he's coming in.
Your email writing. And the point of because of breaking down Ben's metaphor is to automate the boring stuff for you, so you don't have to write every single number, you don't have to write every single word of the email, but it's important for you to actually read the results and then add your human aspect of it. So you have your budgeting report, now you have to analyze it as a human. Use the LM as a companion, as an assistant, but it's still your budget. It's how you spend money. If it's your email, then it's the email that you're going to send. It's going to go on your name. So if it says something that you don't agree with, it's going to be very hard to argument that, or to argue that you didn't write it fully, because people are not going to like that. So use them to help the boring parts of your life, but focus on the hard parts, because that's where the really human intellect is, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for adding that up. Otherwise, it might have been unclear for people.
Yeah, to break someone's legs on a car. Yeah.
And the final point is mainly the risk for business. We do need to consider the digital transition, and with this, AI brings a big digital transition, and you need to remember 2 points. You might need to re-educate and reskill and upscale your workforce, and at the same time, not reskill and upscale your customer base, but sometimes you need to re-educate your customer base on how to use the products. So as a business, you need to be aware of this AI transition, this digital transition, because AI will definitely improve the productivity. It will automate a lot of boring tasks, and people will be more free to do more useful stuff where they can have an impact. So you need to consider that with your workers. And for as a user, in the perspective of user, sometimes for me nowadays I'm re-educating myself on using chatbots or even voice bots, because normally we are used to the old solutions and they're not good, and normally you just try to skip. And probably that's what your customer base is going to do in the beginning, and you need to re-educate, use some campaigns, or find out what's the best approach to get to your customer, because here you're incrementing, but you're also solving a pain for them, you're solving a problem. And if you're doing that, they're going to welcome you with open arms, but you need to show them that you're doing that. So create great products as well.
I think it's a
And
good
if-
notion on the upskilling.
On the personal level, like a lot, if you had a boring like data entry job or those kind of jobs that be automated, you're going to see a lot of, let's say, career changes, because they're going to be different kinds of jobs. A lot of those boring repetitive tasks are going to be automated. And if only there was a podcast suggesting a couple projects that you could build to get started into this new AI world. Because if you had those kinds of jobs, you very easily could become now the guy who builds the projects that automate those boring parts. So all of these ideas that we mentioned at the beginning will soon have a business version to it. And if you're the one capable of building these kinds of projects, you're easily going to find a job and keep it, because it is useful for the future. But
Just
go ahead.
to add
Ben.
on that, it's like you just created the perfect setup. It's basically you can be the person to have the next idea, because if you're doing a boring automated job or not automated tasks, you can be the one who creates this automation and releases, and you're the one maintaining it. Because just because your job is automated doesn't mean your knowledge on that task isn't good. Sometimes it's the best from all the company, and you're the best one to automate, to be helping doing those transitions, because you already have that kind of knowledge. You just
Have an
need the
inside
tools.
view on how things
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's a great way to wrap up the episode. I just quickly checked two numbers that I thought are incredibly interesting, as you mentioned, Bene, that we need to re-educate our clients. I think around 1 in 7 individuals in the world, to my statistic, is using an AI. So that's around, I would say currently around 1 billion people are using some sort of AI, mostly coming from OpenAI, plus a little bit the rest on Anthropic, Google, and all the rest of the world. And 2.4 billion people, so that's around 1 in 4 people in the world, have an iPhone. So this is like, we still have some segue and room to grow for many more people using AI. Just in the future, I think there will be a world where maybe 1 in 3 people are using AI, but currently it's 1 in 6, 1 in 7, maybe 1 in 8 individuals. And there is some room to develop the ones that are not using AI to then be onboarded into the AI world, into your AI products. And the ones that are super users already, they are maybe need to be re-educated as well on new features. So that's maybe just 2 or 3 numbers I thought are interesting. We're still very, very early on the stage. I think that HI or digital super intelligence is coming. Many new features are on the horizon. Finance Corner was last week, but most of the AI stocks are at all-time high again. So we see definitely some momentum on the Nvidias, on the Microns of the world, on the hyperscalers, and so on and so on. They are doubling down on the investments. And this is the year for AI, probably next year once again. And that's
Just
why
a note.
Bennett.
Hashtag this is not investment advice.
Hashtag this is not
Not
investment
legal
advice.
investment advice. It is like legally equivalent of something you heard from the street.
Exactly.
So it might be super useful, but do not sue Cyril or us if your investment fails.
I'm just highlighting there is some sort of, upward trend in usability and usage. That's all I'm alluding to. Gentlemen, thank you for the episode. We wrapped up a few AI agent business ideas that you can start without any AI experience for an entrepreneur, for professionals, or for students. We shoot these episodes every week, as I mentioned at the beginning. Feel free to support us by liking and commenting. We are active on YouTube very much more intensively in the last few weeks as well on TikTok. We are active. And if you have a question, we're always happy to receive your LinkedIn invites as well. German, see you in the next one and have a good weekend. Bye bye.
See you next week.